Oh, there we go.
There we go. We're here. Welcome to episode 244 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We are recording on July the 28th, 2024. My name is Jeff. I'm your host again this week. Eric's had some other family issues to deal with, last minute family stuff, so he can't be here. And Ian is taking care of some damage and a loose alpaca at his residence. So I'm based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
I'm Terry, and I'm located in sunny Central Ontario. Starving indie author, the official grand poobah of the annual Preppers Meet. I'm a terrible hunter, a pathetic fisherman, which I proved once again this weekend, coming back skunked. And I'm a proud Ford owner.
I'm Greg. I'm a former infantryman and avid homesteader, and I'm located here in Vermont.
If you want to help support the show, buy some swag. We have the Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro pad at www.prepperpodcast.ca. All proceeds go to help cover the costs of our podcast.
If you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and submit a review wherever you found us. We want your feedback, even if it's bad. We also invite you to reach out and to tell us about something that you've learned this week. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
So we've got some packing, moving, whatever content for you this episode. We're going to start with some relevant news. We'll update our personal preps, and then we'll get into the main topic, which is what's in my prepper backpack. So I'll start with a couple news articles. The first one I've got obviously is anybody who hasn't heard, the Jasper wildfire out in Alberta, Jasper, Alberta. It has either damaged or totally destroyed a third of the town at minimum. It was caused by a lightning strike, and just with all of the dry conditions out there, which I'll touch a bit on my weather blurb, it just exploded into a big time fire. And, a lot of people weren't ready. They weren't prepared. And sometimes you can't be prepared for everything. I know this was quite a while ago, but one of our old panelists, Hughes, big time prepper, probably the most prepared guy I know, lives in Nova Scotia, and same thing. A fire started. I'm not sure if it was a lightning strike or whatever. And the police showed up at his house and gave him 10 minutes to get out. And even being the most prepared guy in the world, he said there was no way that I was going to have everything ready and getting ready to go, trying to hook up the trailer, get the stuff into the trailer that was in the containers. And then his wife's got the kids, and she's trying to get the kids in the truck. And he just said it was one of the hairiest things he's been through. And, it just goes to show, hey, you got 10 minutes and you're out. So.
Yeah. And I think I've mentioned this quite a few times before. I mean, that really comes, one thing that can help with that is running EDRES, which is, like I said, a preparedness drill or a readiness drill, if you will. That's just, you've got this much time. Here's your scenario. Grab your stuff. Grab what you think is absolutely necessary and go. That's what we did that in the Army a lot. It's one of the best things you can do.
And I wouldn't doubt for 2 seconds that he had done that. Like I said, he's one of the more prepared people I've ever met. And it even, caught him off guard, the 10 minutes, right?
Yeah.
You think, hey, 10 minutes is a lot of time. Do you start moving stuff around and you're trying to hook up to a trailer and everything, and all of a sudden your 10 minutes are gone. He said, if he had 20 minutes, 25 minutes, he'd have been good to go. But, it's just one of those things. And my second news article, again, we don't try to play the politics here. It's more, we keep talking about it, and I keep talking about it, is situational awareness, being aware of your surroundings, know where you are, what's going on where you are. So we're talking about the Olympics, and a few hours before the opening ceremony, there was a coordinated attack on the French railway, and they destroyed a bunch of switches and other things. I'm not a railway guy, but switches and all kinds of other stuff, to the point where the trains couldn't even operate. So, lots of people were stuck. They were stranded. I'm not, to be honest, I'm not surprised something happened. We're just in that society now, and it's unfortunate, but at least nobody got hurt. I understand nobody died. Yeah, you inconvenienced a bunch of people, which is probably what they wanted to do to try and make their point. Not saying I agree with it, but at the end of the day, I guess you've got to know, if you're anywhere near any of these big things that are going on, chances are somebody's going to want to mess with it.
Yeah, I mean that's if you want to take out a large group of people, best way to do it is get them all together. You got those big events like that. They're always there's always some lunatic that wants to try to make a name for themselves. Me and my fiance were talking the other day about the '96 Olympics with Muhammad Ali and the explosions and attacks that happened out there in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So that was literally like last week, and now this happens, or a week before last, something like that. But
yeah,
it's crazy.
So
it seems the Olympics seems to be a good place to hit.
Yes.
Well, like you said, it's a target-rich environment, right? There's all kinds of people there, so it's unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
situational awareness.
Yeah.
Yep. Anybody else got anything? If not, I'll move on to what we've done lately for our preps.
No,
I ain't got nothing.
No, I got nothing.
I did a little bit of food prep and just kept working on the firewood. I got a couple more trailer loads this week, so I'm trying to get my yard cleaned up again and get everything back to normal. So I spent probably about the last, I was going to say 3 days, but it was probably 2.5, because mid this afternoon it got pretty hot and pretty humid, and I just said, you know what, forget this. I don't need to do it now. I'll do it later. So
Well, me, I just had a pretty quiet week. Did a little reading and just some food prep. Made a trip to Costco. Had a hot dog. and bought 500 pounds of stuff. Oh, maybe not quite that much, but we got a few things.
So actually, I had a pretty eventful weekend. Last night, a friend and I took our packs out using a 4-wheeler scenario, just our packs and my 4-wheeler and what I keep in the 4-wheeler toolbox. So it was nice going out, like I said, before the show, just using our stuff, seeing what's going to work, what isn't, the downfalls to the scenario, depending on how many people I have with me, if I have a passenger, so on and so forth. Turns out, like I said before, both of us anchoring off, even at different sides of the 4-wheeler, the rear end wanted to lift up. So I switched immediately to a ground shelter with a ridge line, and, just pretty much like I never got out of the Army. I was just back in the field. Did some, I think we made chili mac out in the field with, like I said, just our stuff that we carried on a regular basis. So pretty nice. Both of us really enjoyed the gear that we use. So I will say right now, I can't speak enough the stormproof matches that you can strike, dip in water, pull them out, and they light right back. I can't remember who makes them, but they're usually like an orange little waterproof container. Those things, man, I didn't have any like pencil lead, pencil, like all my kindling was all thumb size. 3 of those, and it was on. And then after that, it was maybe 3 minutes, and I had a birch log, a maple log, and an oak log sitting on there and catching right off. Like they burn out quick, but they burn super hot. So I can't recommend those enough after last night. I was impressed.
Excellent. Well, with that, we'll move on to the main topic. We did sort of touch on this, I'm going to say probably a couple months ago, talking about, bug out bags and all that kinds of stuff. Call it whatever you want to call it. People have different names for different things. So we're just going to kind of go back over that again and review it and touch on maybe some things we didn't touch on. And so this was Greg's idea. So I'll turn it over to him, and the rest of us will jump in if there's something we want to add, and we can go from there. So you're up, Greg.
All right. So the purpose of an emergency bag is understanding the need. Or first, you want to understand the need for that emergency bag. What you think in your area, like I said before, what's your main, or not main, but what are your threats in your area? So that's the stuff you want to prepare for. That's what you want to have in that bag. You got a few different types. You got, bug out bags, 72-hour bags, get home bags. Personally, I like to have a general bag that I carry with me everywhere I go. So it essentially just becomes an EDC. So with that, because I don't want to have to decide, well, am I grabbing my bug out bag, 72-hour bag, get home bag? What decides that, So I like to have an overall setup. So one, you want to go through a bag selection. There's actually some stores, I believe it's REI. I've never done it, but I was actually reading about it today. They have backpack experts there for this exact situation. They'll give you like 4 bags, all that stuff for your budget, all that, and they'll fit it to you. So that's one thing to take into consideration. Essential items are going to be like water and hydration stuff, water bottles, purification tablets, filters. I have all of those in mine. Some of those I have multiples. Food and nutrition, non-perishable food items, energy bars, canned goods, stuff like that. Depending on, when it comes to canned goods, just keep in mind ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain. Might end up in a situation to where, you're not going 2-3 miles. You may go, that 2-3 miles that you thought might end up turning into 10, 15, 20 miles. And you realize real quick how much, a few extra ounces weighs when you're 20 miles in. Clothing and weather appropriate clothing, extra layers, socks, gloves. I cannot stress this enough. Anybody who's ever served is going to tell you socks. Change your freaking socks, man. You got to take care of your Lamborghinis. So shelter and bedding, your tarp, emergency blankets, sleeping bags, stuff like that. I keep a tarp in my kit, and then I keep a Helicontex poncho as well. I like the poncho setup. It's really nice. It's super easy. You can pull that out, throw it over you and your bag, and keep it moving depending on your footwear. Like I said, take care of the Lamborghinis. You got to watch out for the Chevrolets. But your emergency blankets, you can, little $2-3, like I said, emergency blankets. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head. Sleeping bag. Just remember, if you're going to rock a sleeping bag, make sure that you have something that's going to withstand that temperature or that season. Obviously, like us, it wasn't that big of a deal when I was out in Georgia, but y'all in Canada, me in Vermont, obviously when the seasons start to change, we want to make sure we have the proper sleeping bag in there. And a bivy sack. I would always 100% recommend a bivy sack. Just slide it under or over your sleeping bag, and it adds another layer in between you and the ground. You want to help keep that core temperature you have as normal as possible. So that ground is going to get super cold, or not super cold depending on the time of year, but either way it's going to pull your temperature out. So
What's that
your
bag
first
called
aid
again,
kit,
Greg?
it's a bivy sack. So
How do you spell that?
BIVVY, I believe.
Okay.
So in the American Army, I don't know about the others, we have a modular sleep system, right? So it has your summer sleeping bag, your winter sleeping bag, and then your bivy sack that all layers together, and you can just tear it apart depending on the time of year, so on and so forth. Obviously, if you're training out in Southeast Georgia like I was, if it's 117 degrees, you don't want to even bother carrying your winter sleeping bag. Summer sleeping bag, just to have something to lay on most of the time, is what I did. And then your bivy sack, just in case it rains. I always did keep like a couple of 3 mil contractor bags in my pack. That way I can just, when I'm cleaning out my area, like I said, for a training scenario or something like that, if you're doing like room clearing, you're going through shoot houses, we'd always clean up our area. We don't want to be sleeping with bugs and all that. If that's not what you're working on, don't worry about that. Focus on what you're working on, but I would rake up leaves. I'd throw them in the contractor bags and roll it up, and I'd throw a couple pieces of 100-mile-an-hour tape on it, and then I'd lay on that. So another piece of insulation is a lot more comfortable than dirt, although I have discovered over my time in the field that there is such a thing as that good dirt. But yeah, that setup is really nice. With that, if you can find it surplus, which they do have it surplus, but it's kind of expensive. So I think the last time I looked, it was like between 3 and 4, depending on condition. So like I said, it's whatever's in your budget. Don't put yourself in debt trying to get a sleep system, but they're really nice. There is aftermarket ones. There's other options that you can actually put together yourself in that situation. In my truck, I used to keep a summer sleeping bag and then a wool blanket that I took to the alteration shop outside base, and I had them stitch on a zipper all the way around. And then I would layer that together as well, just to keep in the truck. Obviously I'm not going to unpack my rucksack for the Army just to keep something in my truck. And then you can make your own bivy sack. So,
and like we say in the prepper world, you're in trouble if you're out more than 3 hours without adequate shelter. So
yeah,
in adverse conditions. So you gotta make sure you've got something.
yeah, absolutely. But on your first aid kits, your essential first aid supplies, medication, bandages, not everything is going to be trauma. not everything is going to be life or death. However, even if you're outside, you're in a bad situation, whatever, the littlest things are, that much worse when you don't have adequate, medical attention. Even something as simple as a Band-Aid, keep debris out of it. If it's hot out, you're going to be sweating. You don't want to keep bacteria out of it, anything like that, So don't just focus on, saying IFAC or, your trauma stuff. Make sure you got a boo-boo kit too, is what we call it. Band-Aids, alcohol wipes, Neosporin or triple antibiotic ointment, hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer has so many different uses people don't even realize. So when I wear a watch, I just realized I wasn't wearing my watch too. But when I wear a watch, if any dirt or debris gets underneath there, gets trapped, my wrist likes to break out. So what I do is I'll pull my watch off. I'll just wipe it down with hand sanitizer, dries everything out, clean the back of my watch off, put it back on. I'm good to go. Just little stuff like that. People kind of look over. It's going to be 100 times worse when you're outside, you're stuck, anything like that, So your tools and your supplies, I always have a multi-tool on me. I've always got a knife. That's just stuff I keep 100% on me all the time. So I'll usually keep like an SE folding knife. And then I've got I think I actually got this one from Walmart that I'm carrying now. It's a Swiss Tech. It's like $40. So far, it's been really good. I saw it. I was like $40, man. I'll try that. I was going to get a Gerber, but for the money I was and the trying out a new brand, definitely thought it was worth it. I use it all the time around the house, on the property. It's held up pretty good. Your batteries, always make sure you got spare batteries. Make sure if you're like last night when we used my headlamp, I'm gonna go ahead and put new batteries in that thing. We let that thing run. We hung it up, kind of used it for a camp light and everything. Flashlights. Don't always rely on your phone. A lot of people don't want to carry a flashlight because they're like, oh, I got a flashlight on my phone. Yeah, but when you run that flashlight, then you're running down the battery on your communication systems, So, and a fire starting kit is one of the easiest things you can put together yourself. If you don't want to put one together yourself, you can grab super cheap and affordable ones from all over the place. There's different types, different brands, all that. Whatever, try a couple different ones. See what you like, see what you don't like. See what works in your area. If you got super dry stuff, obviously, you may not want something that burns a super long time. You just want it to burn hot, burn quick, get your stuff going. But as far as a fire starting kit, a Bic lighter is always a good start. Have a ferro rod, maybe a magnifying glass, anything like that. 2 is 1, 1 is none. You want a Bic lighter is quick, it's effective, one flick every time, you're good to go. However, that's a supply that's going to diminish. So you want stuff that you're not always going to have to rely on fuel. So figure out what works for you. Like I said, there's all kinds all over the place. Etsy, Amazon, eBay, even Walmart, they're all over the place. Your personal documents that you want to have, copies of your ID. We stay touching on this. Copies of your ID, insurance papers, emergency contacts. Write down your emergency contacts. If you're in a bad situation, flood, snowstorm, anything, your phone's only gonna last so long. If you drop it, whatever. If it breaks, if it dies, you come up on a phone, you find help, whatever. Obviously, if you get to a phone and you don't have your contacts, then that phone's useless. So your phone's just a tool. You just need the rest to go with it. But your insurance papers, emergency contacts, ID. I mean, I always try to keep physical copies, and I try to keep digital copies on a flash drive or anything on my key ring. I actually pulled mine off. I'm updating everything in it. So your communications. So a whistle, two-way radios, cell phones, chargers. So I want to touch on your charger part right here. There's some flashlights. I've got one. I want to say it's the same brand that my multi-tool is. So on my truck, I actually took out the little handle. Everybody likes to call it the shoot handle, I'll say. And I replaced it with quick clamps, quick fists, I believe they're called. And now my shoot handle is actually a flashlight, but it's a rechargeable light, but if you undo the cap at the base and you pull that out to charge it, it's also a power bank. So I think Swiss Tech makes that. I'm sure there's 100 other companies that have the same design, but this is the one that I know of. So they have different levels of them. They're awesome. The whistles, you can get those obviously Walmart, any little shop. When I was in, that's one way that we would communicate on a lift fire, shift fire. Each team leader would have a whistle around their neck, and we would blow the whistle so many times, and then the other one would blow it back so many times as a confirmation, like a shift fire confirmed, lift fire confirmed, so on and so forth. But there's a little ferro rod that I actually keep in my fire kit that has a whistle and a compass on the back of it. So even if I'm just out hiking, I take that with me because, I could slip, break my leg. Obviously that whistle is going to take a lot less energy and a lot less abuse to my throat to blow a whistle than to sit there and try to scream for a bunch of people passing by that I can't see if they're even there or not. So two-way radios, two ways, GMRS, ham radio, all those are really good things to have on hand. Even your cell phone, Signal app, there's WhatsApp, there's all that. One thing you can do on that, there's actually a ham radio app. If your phone has service for whatever reason, you can't dial out, anything like that, you can use your phone to operate on ham radio frequencies. So that's pretty cool. Your phone, you can have a group call or a group chat and whatnot on Signal, on WhatsApp. I don't know if you can do it on WhatsApp. I'm sure you can, but on Signal, I've seen people run for training purposes. They'll run a Signal group chat with the people they're training with, like running shoot houses or room clearing, anything like that. And they'll put earbuds in underneath their comm headset. And that's how they communicate. They're just running their phones on the Signal app with an earbud in their ear. So that's pretty cool. It's a free app. Like I said, if you can do that, just whatever you feel like playing with, whatever you think is going to be best for you.
So kind of on that, it's a little bit big, and I know we talk about, trying to keep size of your packs to a minimum and stuff like that. But I carry this with me. I got it actually from Eric's Rapid Survival. It's a radio. It's not a broadcast radio. Unfortunately, it's only a receive radio, but it's AM, FM, it's weather. But what I like about it is it's got a small solar panel It's a crank charger. It's got a USB on it, so you can charge your cell phones. You can charge other things. It's got a flashlight built into it. So instead of carrying 3 and 4 different things that might add up to this size, I just carry this, and it's got everything I need. Like I say, in it, I just can't transmit with it, but I can charge phones. Like I say, it's got a flashlight. It's got crank power on it, solar power. So that's something I carry.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've got one. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't even remember what brand it is. I think it was actually a gift. The crank on it doesn't do very well, but I know there's several brands that are so much better than the one I have. It's just one I haven't updated yet or upgraded. But you can plug it up and charge it that way too. But that only does you so good for so long.
Yep.
Kind of defeats the purpose of it, So one thing I absolutely cannot stress enough: cash and barter items. Small denominations of cash, items for trade. One thing I like to keep is the little shooters of alcohol. You used to get them for heck $1, but I mean, if it's a bad situation, you're stuck with that. I mean, everybody's gonna want to have a drink every now and then, and if that's their thing, hey, that works out to your advantage, So that's one thing I like to keep in my pack for trade. Another thing that you can keep that I have a ton of is gold and silver dollars. If you have $100 bill, great, until it gets wet. If you have a 20, great, until it gets wet. 5, that's cool, until it gets wet. So I like to keep a lot of change, gold dollars, silver dollars, quarters, nickels, dimes. Obviously, I'm not going to worry about pennies too much. And what you can do is put them in stacks of so much. Put a piece of tape around them. That way they're together. They don't swing and shift in every which direction, and they don't rattle. So if they're taped together and they're in larger bands, then you're going to pass that rattle test. For those of you that don't know what the rattle test is, or the jump test, depending on who you ask, it's put all your gear on, buckle it in, do however you're going to wear it, jump up and down. If you make noise, adjust your pack, that will, depending on what you're preparing for. That's just something I keep in the back of my head, along with your straps. So my pack is a hunting pack. I think I got it from Cabela's. One of my old soldiers got it for me as a gift. But once you get it set, everybody wants to leave those little, we always called it a spaghetti monster in the Army. But roll up your straps once you get your pack set. And if you don't have those little bungee cords or little bungee bands that go around it, use electrical tape. We always wrapped our straps in electrical tape so that it was protected. It was, neat. It can't get caught on anything if it's not dangling around. If you have it neat, then you're good to go. Personal customization for your bag, tailoring your bag to specific needs, whether it be medical conditions, personal preferences, stuff like that, and adding comfort items. So this one I think really gets looked over a lot if you have kids. If you're stuck, especially with kids, How are you going to keep them occupied? Kids get bored. Kids want to move around. They want to talk. They want to play. Not everything is going to be worst case scenario situation, you know, but I think a lot of us, that's what we think about, you know? So books, games, stuff like that, whether it be a crossword puzzle or maybe if you got an old Game Boy or something, whatever, throw that in there. So a notebook for the kids, coloring book, pens, pencils, anything, you know, anything. I used to keep a deck of cards in my pack because at the end of the day, a brain that's going to be used is one that's going to stay sharp. It's going to be, you're not going to lose your mind if you're using it, you know? So I used to do that. Another thing we used to do in the Army was that deck of cards. If we were out in the field, if, you know, another platoon is running through the shoot house or anything like that, we're obviously going to wait our turn. We could chill, do whatever, but a lot of people would get that deck of cards and they'd turn it into a workout. All right, cool. Flip a card. I got 5. Okay, cool. I'm gonna do 5 push-ups. All right, I'm gonna do 5 squats, whatever. Just different things like that. It doesn't have to be you're over there playing solitaire, you know, but just stuff like that. People don't realize that most things have multiple purposes if you think about it. If you use your head, you can come up with something else, you know. So on some packing tips, you always want your like sleeping bag at the base. That's going to be your bulky. That's going to be your heavy item. You want that as close to your body as possible, though. That's the big thing. And I always, when I start out carrying my pack, I want it high up on my shoulders. I want that thing as high as I can get it. I want my shoulders to carry all that weight. I don't want it low, hanging on my lower back. I don't want to carry it on my hips, you know. But what I will do on a long haul, I'll start out with it on my shoulders, and then say maybe 5, 6, 7 miles in, whatever, I'll release the pressure off my shoulders and I'll do my kidney belt and I'll keep that tight and I'll carry it on my hips for a little bit. I'll do that to give my shoulders a rest. And then so many miles later, I'll hike it back up. I'll start carrying it on my shoulders again, you know? So
quick question on that, Greg.
What's up?
So on your backpack, so I'm assuming we're talking about a backpack. Is it better to have like straps on the bottom of the backpack that's where you can put the sleeping bag and you can tie it to the bottom of the backpack instead of stuffing it inside? Or is it better inside?
So I like it inside, personally, inside at the base. And I like a pack where you can unzip and ease of access right there, you know? That's my favorite setup. That's how our rucks were in the Army. Unfortunately, my pack is not like that, but I like it inside because you're not going to have your bivy on your sleeping bag. You're probably not going to have it in a super small cinch sack. I love a cinch sack because I want that sleeping bag as small as I can get it, right? But if that's your case, then it's going to be on the base. But then when you're trying to get it as compact as you can, then it's a little bit more difficult for you to strap to the bottom of your pack. So I like it inside personally. It's just my preference. If you're backpacking or something, I don't see it as too much of a big deal if you're doing like a 2, 3, 4 day hike, something like that. But it's also, if that's your case, then you're planning for that. You're going to look at the weather. If you're going to have weather reports. You're not just going to wander off in the woods for 4 days and be like, well, let's see what happens. No, that's how bad things happen. If that is what you're going to do, God be with you. But the
no, I just wondered for, being able to, I was just kind of looking at it both ways. I guess,
so if
like
it's
you say,
like I said, if it's
that much smaller sleeping bag is, I mean, we have them now. Years ago, you didn't have those. You had the big and bulky sleeping bag.
yeah,
If that's if that's inside your pack, you're not getting a lot of other stuff in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That
So
you might need.
yeah, so another thing I like to do, because since I keep my main sleep system is my whoopee. Last night when we did our little gear check, the only thing I had for cover besides what I had on me was just a whoopee, or some of the listeners know it as a poncho liner. That's the technical term through the military, is a poncho liner. And it ties off to the inside of your poncho, and it will actually make a lightweight sleeping bag. So, but last night I used my poncho as my shelter. That's why I love the poncho. It's so versatile. And honestly, it got down to 57 degrees last night, Fahrenheit. So not super cold, but when the sun's out, 57's pretty nippy. But that's all I had was my whoopee, some lightweight pants, and a t-shirt. And I found if I would have had just a long sleeve t-shirt, I would have been more comfortable. But I slept like a baby, which I usually do when I'm out in the field anyway. But the packing tips, I turn everything into a kit. Your fire kit, water kit, shelter kit, food kit, and then you can have like obviously a hygiene kit. So I use Ziploc bags, like gallon size Ziploc bags. And even if I don't need something that big, I'll use a gallon. That way I can roll it up. As you roll it up, you create more layers, more protection from puncturing holes in your stuff, whatever, and I'll talk about the how I've got my stuff set up here in just a little bit. Regular maintenance, checking and updating your bag regularly, rotating supplies, keeping items fresh. You want to always check your straps. That's a big thing. A lot of us, when we get done, we don't look at what's behind us. We're just putting our pack in our truck or in our car or whatever. But if you're using your gear and training with it like you should, you want to look at those buckles. Those buckles are plastic. If you're in extreme heat, extreme cold, going from hot to cold, it's going to get brittle. It's going to break. As much as I hate to say it, over time things get snagged. I actually have a 90-pound pit bull that I had my pack on in my mudroom. That 90-pound pit bull decided it was a really nice pack, and I came home and that Helicontex poncho was on the porch. And actually last night, as I was laying down, I holler out to my buddy and I'm like, man, thing's got a hole in it. It was super small, nothing major, nothing I can't fix, but That and the
Surprise.
yeah, exactly. I was like, God, he's lucky. He's cute. But he chewed up my tensioner for the hood. So again, little stuff like that. I was like, oh, it's not shredded, so it's cool. He didn't get to it. No, he got to it. He got to it. He let me know he was there. So another thing when you're checking your bag, I don't use it anymore. So this is one that I like to kind of put at the back of my head, but it applies to everything. If you're running a Camelback or any type of bladder, make sure you rinse that thing out after every use. Make sure that thing is dry because it will mold. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to get real upset when you go to sip your water and all you taste is black mold in your mouth. Ask me. I've done it. I got it all dried out and everything, but I forgot about my hose and the whole hose. It was actually a black hose, so I couldn't see it. And man, I didn't get it good enough, I guess. And there was black mold all up in my line on I think it was a 10 or 15 mile ruck. So I was pretty upset. A few miles in. So, your food. Obviously, if you got Mountain House meals or, Ready Wise or My Patriot Supply, anything like that, you don't have to really worry about those as much. But you do have to worry about anything puncturing those bags. Obviously, if you've got, a knife in there, an awl, anything like that, can poke those bags. So that comes down to your packing and everything. So it doesn't have to be necessarily your stuff is out of date. It can just be, well, stuff shifted around, something got a hole in it. So it just look at what you got. I'll usually keep one MRE and one Mountain House meal, or not Mountain House, but one of those, because I have several different kinds that I keep. Those are good. One MRE is packed full of enough calories, carbohydrates, sodium to last an entire day. And the wintertime ones are even more. So if you got one Mountain House meal, which is a lot of the bigger ones, are 2 servings. So you've got that, one MRE, you're good to go for, a couple days at least. Your food is kind of gonna change out. Obviously, if you're taking your bag and you're gonna go on a hike with it, don't worry about, keeping all your food exactly the same. That weight's gonna change. Once you get to a situation to where you can chill, you're gonna, that's weight that is going to disappear out of your pack, So if you want to, what I like to do is I'll weigh out my meal and I'll try to mimic it as close as I can before I head out. Like last night we did a chili mac on fire using our stoves, bush pot, and nesting cups. And all it was a can of chili, a thing of microwave Velveeta little mac and cheese, and some jalapeno cheese from Velveeta little packs and everything. And that was everything. And that is packed full of calories, carbs. You're good to go. But having those 2 different little containers was helpful. Not, I didn't have to, but I could have just used the bush pot and boiled the mac and cheese, drained my water, add my chili, go from there. But I used 2 different containers because, well, I wanted to try everything. So Eric put in there to have some real life examples of how emergency bags have been used in actual situations. So when I first got into corrections the first time around back in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I was actually involved in a situation where I got assaulted and I was out of work for a little bit. So when I came back, they had me on light duty and I was literally stuck out in the van driving the perimeter for 8 to 16 hours a day. So that got really boring. One thing when you're outside of the facility, one thing you can't do, you can't get food. You can't get food from the chow hall, whatever. So I actually had my bag in my truck or in my car at the time. I had my little Honda Civic. But I actually went to my car and I remember having oatmeal in there. And I was like, cool. But I had no container to cook it in. I was like, man, this is about to get real redneck. So I took some oatmeal and I had a Gatorade bottle from where I had a Gatorade before shift. So I was like, all right. And then I didn't have any water. So I went up to the maintenance building. They had a spigot on the side of the building. Filled up my water bottle enough. I put oatmeal in the Gatorade bottle and then put the water in there. I shook it up to mix it, tighten the cap real good. And then it is midsummer and I put the defrost on in this van to create heat and then basically pressurize and swell up in that bottle. And then as I would see the bottle swell as I'm still driving around the facility pulling security, I'd pull it out, I'd open up the cap, and then I'd release all the pressure, and then I'd tighten it back up, and I'd throw it back up there. And I did that like 3 times. And that was how I ate that day. And that little bag of oatmeal was all I had that entire day. So that's another thing that I like to keep in my pack sometimes is just oatmeal. It's calories, carbohydrates, proteins. That's your nutrition. It's fast, it's easy, and it's light. So light is where it's at. So that's just kind of a little thing that you can consider. You know, if you got those, then you're good to go. But that's just one thing that I got. So Terry, it looks like you're up, buddy.
I got a couple of things. You alluded to it, Greg, is test your gear. You know, you can have the best kit in the world out there, and if you don't know how to use it and you don't practice with it, it may not do you any good to find out that it doesn't work when you get out there. You know, use it. Use practice. Very important.
Yeah.
And my second item is, Greg was talking about how packing all your gear in your pack. I like to emphasize that we should always put it back in the same place.
Yeah.
All the time. If you always put your first aid kit in, say, the right-hand pocket every time, your fire kit in the left-hand pocket every time. If you're out there and things go wrong and you're panicking or whatever the case may be, maybe you've injured yourself and you have to get somebody to get your first aid kit for you. It's in the right-hand pocket of my bag. That's where it is. You know where it is. And somebody can find it for you. Or you can find it in the dark if you can't see, or, you know, just always put it in the same place. It kind of builds comfort into your situation and helps you be confident and to keep things calm.
Mm-hmm.
Always important. That's
Absolutely.
my 2 things.
On top of putting them all in the same situation or like the same location all the time, one thing you can do also is if it's dark, have like texture or some type of feeling indicator that somebody can feel. If it's dark, they don't have a headlamp, whatever, yours done fell off because you fell down the side of a hill or something, then they can feel it, you know?
Yeah.
other senses. Don't always rely on your primary
Your
sense and
visual,
whatnot,
yes.
because if you're just walking through the woods, even during a hike, then tree branches. People don't think about safety glasses or anything like that. Sunglasses, even. My buddy last night, he had some safety glasses from work in his pack. He was like, I don't know why I need these. I was like, well,
Oh, yeah.
think about if you're walking through the woods at night or even during the day, and you look over because you think you hear something, you turn back around, there's a branch right there. Now you've got a branch in your eye. It's just everyday normal stuff. It doesn't have to be a super terrible situation that gets you, just be a mishap. Bad things happen every day. Us as people that want to prepare, we think about the worst case scenario, but it doesn't have to be a terrible situation. Just life happens, and you just got to be ready for anything really. The little things that get overlooked, because those little things add up. All right, well, I got a cut on my finger. I'm out in the woods. I'm sweating. Now I'm walking back to my truck from a day hike, sprained my knee, cut my finger. Now I got poked in the eye by a tree branch. When it rains, it pours, and those little things will add up. And
Safety
you
glasses
have
are
a bunch of
inexpensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
$1.50,
It's
and
just have them everywhere.
yeah,
They're just so inexpensive. And people take it for granted, but
yeah,
just one poke in the eyeball
you
ruins
only
your
got
day.
2 of them. So, but my sunglasses are actually ballistic rated. They look like normal sunglasses. They don't like stand out or anything like that. They just look like regular sunglasses. But like I said, they're rappel rated. So when I go to the range, if I'm going to an outdoor range or anything like that, I don't put safety glasses on. I put my sunglasses on. 1, keep the sun out of my eyes, and 2, I got my protection. And if that's an everyday thing that I wear, then if somebody calls me up, hey man, after work, you want to go to the range? Yeah, absolutely. I've always got 2 firearms in my truck at all times. So, like I said, just, it doesn't have to be end of the world stuff, man. Just the little things add up, So, all right. So on my section here, I put in, I kind of wanted to go over how I have my pack. So like I said earlier, I like to break everything down into a kit. I have a fire kit, a water kit, a shelter kit, and a food kit, and a hygiene kit. I use gallon-sized Ziploc bags to separate everything, and I'm gonna end up upgrading my Ziploc bags into the Magpul DACA bags is what I'm going to use. So they're big, they're sturdy enough to where I don't have to worry too much about the Ziploc bags getting punctured or anything like that. They're a lot thicker. So that's just a brand that I'm looking at personally. And they're not that expensive. I think one of the larger ones are like anywhere from $15 to $20. I guess probably depends on where you get them. So my kits, my fire kit, I have Bic lighters. I have those stormproof matches. I have some fire plugs, a 7 times magnifying glass, a real small one, about the size of a silver dollar or a $half, and a small ferro rod with that compass and that whistle on it. So, like I said, it's a whole lot easier to blow a whistle than it is to holler for help, and you only got so long before your voice starts giving out on you. My water kit, my primary is actually a Grail GeoPress, and Grail has 2 separate filters to where you can get it for like maybe like bad tap water or you can get it a little bit deeper for like streams and stuff. Obviously, that's where I spend a lot of my time, so that's the one I got. A single wall stainless water bottle with a nesting cup, and then I have a Sawyer mini filter, and then I have some aqua tabs. My shelter kit, yeah, that exact one actually. My shelter kit, I got a Ridgeline. Like I said earlier, my Helicontex poncho, and I'm not trying to like throw out brands or anything like that. There's 100 different aftermarket companies with different price ranges and everything like that. That's just the one that at the time they had the pattern I wanted. So, and I have a Whoopee and an inflatable pad, and I have a surplus Army wet weather tarp, and I keep a few 3 mil contractor bags, like I said, and I've got some Gorilla tape in there, obviously, because I can't get on bases and grab my 100-mile-an-hour tape, you know. My food and cook kit is a small backpacking camp stove, a bush pot in combination with my nesting cup, like I said earlier, and my stainless water bottle. And the food I carry is, like I said, usually an MRE and a freeze-dried meal. MREs, like I said, you don't have to heat those up. Freeze-dried meals, you're going to have to heat up. But like I said, depending on your situation, you have those options, you know. So that's what I usually keep in mind. So
Excellent. I really don't have much to add, or actually really anything to add that hasn't been covered. I think I think Greg's gone through a pretty extensive a list there for things to think about. As Greg said, everybody's a bit different. Your preferences are going to be a bit different. Your circumstances, urban to rural, all that kinds of stuff is gonna, I guess, determine or take into account what you're gonna put in your bag and how you're gonna fix it up. But anyways, that's been some great information, Greg. Like I said, I really don't have anything else to add. So if nobody else does, we'll move into the podcast challenge.
I got one more thing because I forgot to add it because I always forget that I even have this. Because it's just one of those things you can't really test or train with. You just got to remember it. Is the 4-way seal cock key for the water valves through in an urban area. So a lot of urban buildings have a water spigot on the outside, but what they'll do is they'll take the knob off of it so that, you know, normal people, everyday people can't just go up and run up their water bill and stuff like that. So, but if you have that little key, it's got like 4 different ways on it, and you can just set it on there, twist it, open it up, top off, and go. You're on your way. So,
And so on that, and I'm not an expert on this at all, but it was a discussion when we rode at our fish camp there a while ago. It was a discussion that a couple people were having, and they say a lot of like municipal buildings, schools, that kind of stuff. They'll have an outside spigot, but it's behind a door, and you need a special square key or some kind of a key to open that door. Apparently, you can just buy it off of Amazon or anything like that. And that will allow you to be able to open that door and turn on that spigot and get that water.
Yep. So I actually got I think my seal cock key. I think I was at a local, like a general hardware store here in Vermont, and I saw one hanging right there. I was like, yep, well, that's a 2-pack. I'm getting that. And I was like, man, I didn't even have to order it. You know, usually stuff like that, you find yourself ordering, but it was nice actually just finding it on the shelf.
Yep.
So
All right.
on the
Well,
go ahead,
go
Jeff.
ahead, Greg.
I was gonna say on moving on to the podcast challenge, either make yourself some type of bag, or examine the one you have and make adjustments as necessary. One thing I do want to add to this is because I kind of didn't think about it, is a specialty bag to keep in your house at all times, or not even a bag, maybe like a small tote that you keep in the closet, and you'll keep, like a blackout bag. Up where I'm at, like I said, power outages are a thing because of the high winds and the large amounts of snow. Where I'm at, in the next town over, roads could be clear, no snow on the ground. Looks like spring is coming. But where I live, I'm probably still going to have about 6 or 7 inches. So that's just
Yeah, I was going to say I'm in the same boat where I am. I'm in what they call the snow belt, and we get lake effect snow, and it's the same thing. I could have a foot of snow and drive 10 minutes down the road, and they have green grass.
Yeah.
Yep.
And towards the end of the night, or towards the end of the winter, you're like, man, I really don't like this next town over.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's one thing to think about. I think blackouts and power outages are a common enough thing everywhere, or have the potential to be an issue everywhere. So I think that's something that everyone should have is a blackout bag. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to keep in those are going to they're going to interchange with what you have in your pack or anything like that. So it's just going to be a lot of common stuff, weather radio, MRE, stuff you don't have to rely on power to cook, stuff like that. Just those creature comforts, even maybe a protein bar, anything like that. The weather radio, always have that hand crank weather radio, a flashlight. And there was actually a flashlight, come to think about it, that would be good for that. Is y'all remember back in the day, it was a flashlight that was clear and you could shake it and it would create, So I don't know if they still make those. They're not LED or anything, but that's something that has been around a long time. So if they still make them, then that would definitely be something I'd consider throwing in there. So I don't know what they're called. I'm sure you can find them on Google or Amazon or eBay, anything like that, And if not those, something very similar.
Yeah. And I think, and I've said this for a while, and anybody who knows me, I've been preaching it for a long time. To me, like you talked about the power outages, and they're rare. I don't think they're that rare anymore, and I think they're going to get worse. Our electrical infrastructure is bad, and it's only going to get worse because nobody wants to spend the money, because it's not pretty money. It's, it doesn't get them a lot of publicity for spending all this money and whatever, when that's really what they should be spending it on. So, I've just, that's something that I've been preaching and saying for a long time, is my biggest fear is our electrical infrastructure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just somebody hacking it or doing something like that.
Yeah.
It's just simply, we had a storm go through here at my place a couple of weeks ago, and one tree come down, and I was without power for 18 hours.
Yeah. And they say that, I can't remember who it was that was talking about it. But if you lose, like the grid goes down, they say about 3 days before absolute total chaos. So And it
It's
doesn't
about
have
right.
to be worldwide. It doesn't have to be worldwide. But if you've got one large city that just completely goes down, that's all it's going to take to create a chain effect, and it's over with, at least for a little bit. But if our entire grid was to go down, just to get it back, that's not even to get it fluent or running proficiently or to where we are now, which is overloaded. But I want to say it was Sean Ryan that went over it. 2 years. 2 years is what you're looking at if America's grid was to completely go down. And that's to get it back.
Yeah. Well,
not even to what we have now.
Part of the one big problem is, Canada, US, whatever, it doesn't matter, North America, there is no capability or no business or no that makes the large transformers. They're coming from Germany. They're coming from the EU, even maybe China. Right now, a very large for a substation transformer, you're ordering it and you're getting delivery in about 18 months. So,
I don't want to.
It's bad.
I don't want to sound like a complete lunatic, but because this is not, it sounds like a lunatic thing to say, but it's not a conspiracy. They've literally come out and shown it. China has their finger in the American electrical grid. Everything comes over from over there. They've literally put it all out there. It's not a conspiracy. It's not, I think this. It's not this might happen. No, this is 100% a possibility.
And you're right, because they come from China, and a lot of them, how the electrical companies, I know we're going a bit off track here, folks, but bear with us. So how the electrical companies manage the grid and know what's working and what isn't is through Wi-Fi and through wireless. If that generator or that transformer comes from China with that built in, do you not think China has the capability to be able to monitor that exact same system from where they are? Sure they can. Could they shut it down? Could they bypass it? I don't know. We're kind of going off a bit there, but I don't doubt for 2 minutes they could if they really wanted to.
Yeah. And if somebody has that kind of access to the one creature comfort that the entire world, the entire countries, every country has become so reliant on, that takes away so much control. And like I said, they wipe out that, it's over with, 3 days before total chaos. And you're looking at 2 years to get it back to not even where we're at now. So, but I will say this, there are certain states that want to have that solar as a backup. So they're actually offering assistance or to completely pay to have your house hooked up to solar to relieve pressure off the electrical grid. So there is that. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, yeah, go ask the government for help. Well, chances are there's not, I'm not a fan of that. I always, when I took my economics class in high school, one thing that the teacher said that always stuck with me: ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Somewhere, somebody is paying for that, and chances are it's going to be you. So,
yeah, we've gone a little off course there, but I think it was a good little off course to go and get that out there. So with that, upcoming events, Terry.
Oh boy. Well, last week we had our annual Preppers Meet debrief here on the Prepper podcast, and that was very good. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we are already in the planning stage for 2025. We got lots of good feedback from folks, lots of good comments, some negative comments, and we're going to build on the good and rectify the negative. So plans are already going ahead on to do that. The date has already been set for the 2025 event. So mark this on your calendar, July 10th to the 13th, 2025. So mark them in, be there. Now, having said that, I would also like to ask everybody to consider penciling in the entire week from July 7th to the 13th, because we're considering extending the event to become Prepper Week by introducing some serious training opportunities in the days leading up to the event. And, I guess still in the early planning stages, but some of the things we come up with are the following, like a full wilderness first aid certificate course. That's one. A full possession acquisition license course is another option. Full ham radio operators course, and maybe the opportunity to do the test. I don't know if we can pull that off or not, but the full course you can do. A full land navigation course. A butchering and food prep course, maybe where we'll get an animal and we'll do some butchering and do some food prep to go along with it, and on how to make meals that way. A tracking course, on tracking game and so on. Some things we thought would be interesting. I put a post on our Facebook page where people can do a poll, choose which ones they like, and the option to adding something else that we might have forgotten. But so take that opportunity and get in there and put it in the comments here, put it into the comments on our Facebook page, email me, whatever you want to do. But that's something we're thinking about. It may or may not happen, but we think that would be nice to expand the program a little bit and offer something that you can take home at the end of the day. The cost of it or whatever, we really don't know yet. It's all TBA, but if we get enough interest, it would be worth looking at doing it, I think. The location, still TBA, but 99.99% chance it's going to be at the Slovenian Hunting and Angling Club, because that was just such a great venue this year. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. I loved it. It was great. So pencil in those dates, July 10th to the 13th, but stretch it out to the 7th to the 13th. If there's something interesting you'd like to do, and keep in touch and keep an eye on our Facebook page and our website for details for those.
Excellent. Awesome. I like hearing that. I am liking that.
Oh, yeah, I think that'll be good. Really good.
Yep.
Take us to the next level, right?
Absolutely. All right, so I'll move into a bit of a quick weather blurb here. We've had a bit of a long one, but as everybody knew, we kind of really didn't have a winter this year in a lot of places in North America. Warmer winter, a lack of a snowpack has unfortunately led to drier than normal conditions, and obviously with that comes forest fires. So as I mentioned in my news article, the town of Jasper, Alberta suffered significant damage. Early estimates are that at least a third of the town's been lost. Good news is the hospital, the water treatment plant, the sewage treatment plant, those places that you need when people start to return, they start to rebuild. Apparently they were not damaged. So they have had some rain. Fires have died down a bit, but unfortunately more hot and dry conditions are expected to return. So let's hope that that we don't see another repeat of this. We got off to a quick start to the hurricane season, and then it sort of died off. There were lots of reasons for it. I won't get into them here, but we're now seeing increasing signs that storm development is going to pick up. There's presently a disturbance in the tropics that's at about a 40 to 50% chance to become a storm within the next few days to a week. More confidence is gaining that it will become a storm by next weekend. and it may be nearing the U.S., specifically Florida. There's lots of disagreements, however, in the models as to the exact direction and location of any possible landfall. But if you, like I say, if you're in the Florida area, maybe even up the East Coast, up towards the Carolinas, that kind of stuff, you should be paying attention. Keep an eye on the Discord. I frequently am updating it to keep stuff there, reference to severe weather, hurricanes, tornadoes, that kind of stuff. So if that's your interest, which is mine, go there. There's lots of information. And if there's anything you need to know or you got a question, throw it in there and I'll get you the answer you need. We don't have any deals of the week. Any shout outs from any of the panelists here? Okay.
I'm empty this week.
Pardon?
I said I'm empty this week.
Yeah, I heard, unfortunately. So with that, I'll bring episode 244 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the audio podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Please submit a review. It helps people find us. It encourages the algorithm to promote us, and that way people can find the show. We do record these shows live on YouTube, also on Facebook. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we're going live. Anybody wants to reach out to me, you can contact me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
And you can reach me on the Discord app or at crossrifleranch@gmail.com.
You are muted, Mr. Terry.
Thank you. Sorry. You can reach me at the Annual Preppers Meet Facebook page or at my email, terrylblackmore@hotmail.com.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay safe and keep learning.